Hello everyone, good evening. Warm welcome to Finance Current Affairs, and today we are going to cover the most important current affairs for 15th and 16th of May 2025. I hope you all are doing well. I hope I'm audible, visible, everything is fine. We are good to go. Just let me know in the comment section with yes sir that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine. We are good to go so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. As always, I promise you, after completing this session, again, you will have the same feeling that yes, this is a session which is a must-watch session for you all if you are preparing for RBI Grade B examination, because in this particular session we discuss the RBI circulars in much depth which is required for your examination point of view. Are we good to go, guys? Shall we begin the discussion? And as you know, we start the discussion with the questions based on the news which we have covered in the previous session. We'll quickly revise them and then we will be moving ahead to the current day. But if you want to download the PDF of this session, then I would request you do join this Telegram channel in order to download the PDF which you can use for your future reference in order to revise and clear your examination. ठीक है जी? So I guess we are good to go. Start करें? Shall we start with the discussion, guys? Shall we start with the discussion? May I have a reply in the comment section, please? Okay, everything is fine. Chalo. Here we go with the first question of the evening. The first question from the previous session is now on your screen. This is the news which we have covered in the previous session, and today we will be solving few questions so that you have much more understanding, and it will be a kind of a quick revision for everyone which will help you in near future. So the first question is now on your screen. The question says, consider the following statement about a logistic or digital logistic company, urban logistic company. The name is Porter. Porter has become the third unicorn of India, and with respect to this particular announcement, with respect to this particular news, we have a question on the screen. The first statement is Porter raised $200 million in a Series F funding round, taking its valuation to approximately $1.1 to $1.2 billion. That is absolutely correct, because if the company's valuation is $1 billion, then only the company is given a title, or a startup is given a title of unicorn. Porter was founded in 2014 by an IIT graduate and currently serves customers in India as well as abroad. That is also true. If I say one of the Porter's goal is to empower MSME and gig economy worker through improved urban logistic. That is also true. Series F funding typically take place in the early stage of the startup cycle. No sir, it do not take place in the early stage, rather it takes place in the latter stage, because we have Series A, then B, then C, D, E and F. Sixth stage is the F stage of funding. So according to that, answer should be A option. 1, 2 and 3 are correct. So A option is correct, but the fourth statement is incorrect. That is the reason I have made you understand what is Series F. If a question is asked, you will be in a position to answer it for sure. Moving on to the next question. If I talk about the three companies which have been declared, three Indian startups which have been declared as unicorn in 2025, those three startups are on the screen. The name is Porter, Juspay as well as Netrodyne. Now the question over here is, Porter is what? So Porter is urban logistic company, Juspay is a digital payment company, and if I talk about the third one, it is an artificial intelligence for fleet safety. So according to this, A goes with, or first goes with C, second goes with B and third goes with A, and according to that, answer is going to be which option? So according to that, answer is going to be A option. If this kind of question is asked in the examination, you will be in a position to solve it for sure. Got it, guys? Maza aa raha hai? I hope you all have shared the link of this session with your friends. I know it's Saturday, most of the students, they haven't joined the session yet, but I would request them, do join it quickly, because this is again going to be a really very important session for all your upcoming examination, because today we are going to discuss one of the most important master direction, or I would say we will be completing one of the most important master direction of RBI related to the foreign portfolio investment, which has been in news from past 4 months. Moving on to the next question. The finance minister has urged stakeholders to target achieving what daily UPI transaction milestone in next 2 to 3 years. So we are targeting that per day transaction number. I'm talking about the transaction number. Per day transaction number should be what? So per day transaction number should be 1 billion. Per day transaction number should be 1 billion, and India is trying its level best, as stated by Finance Minister, that we will be reaching to this particular mark in next 2 to 3 years. Got it, guys? Moving on to the next question. The next question talks about a very important data. If a question is asked, or I would say this data is really very important, which will help you while writing the descriptive answers as well, because while writing the descriptive answers you can mention this data in order to add a surety to your words, which is related to the development of digital banking in India. So the question says volume and value. I'm talking about which of the following best reflects the UPI performance in financial year 2025. So in the financial year 2024-25, if we compare the volume, sir, undoubtedly volume has increased, as well as the value of transactions done through UPI, they have also increased. But if I talk about the increase in volume, so volume has increased by 42%, and if I talk about value, so value is increased by 30%. So keeping these two terms in mind, answer should be B option. So keeping these two terms in mind, answer should be B option. Very good, very good. I'm loving it. Aditi, Chetan, Anuj, you all have given the correct answer. That means yes, you are revising the PDF on regular basis. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Consider the following statement regarding the RBI's framework for the formulation of regulation. So I guess this, for the formulation of regulation. So the first statement is framework applies only to the regulations that are general in nature and not issued in specific entities. Yes, sir, we have studied the RBI notification in which RBI has set the framework on the basis of which RBI will be making, the required amendments, or introduction of required amendments in the current regulation or introduction of new regulations. But it, or I would say this framework, is going to be followed only and only. It is going to be followed only and only in case of what? So it is going to be followed only and only in case of general nature framework or general nature regulation, not for specific one. So technically this statement is correct. Hanji. RBI must publish the draft regulation and invite the public comments with the timeline minimum 30 days window. No sir, it is not 30 days window. The minimum window is 21 days. So keeping that in mind, second statement is incorrect. Regulation include notifications, orders, policies, specifications, standards. Correct. Impact analysis and international best practices may be considered before finalizing a regulation. That is also correct. Any regulation issued prior to the framework introduction will be treated under the new procedure. No sir, it will be treated under the older procedure itself. So according to that, third, fourth and first statement are correct. So answer is going to be A option. Answer is not going to be D, it is going to be A option. I hope I'm correct. First statement is correct. The framework applies only to the regulations that are general in nature. It is not going to apply on the specific entity based framework. So that is correct. Moving on to the next. Okay, so here we go with the today's news, guys. So if you haven't liked the session yet, quickly hit the like button. If you haven't shared the link of this session yet, do share the link of this session with your friends so that everyone is aware the session is live. Guys, if you remember, in the previous session we have started our discussion related to the foreign portfolio investment. In that particular discussion, we have started with the routes. We have 3 routes, or actually we have 4 routes. I have discussed 3 yet. I will be discussing 4th also today. So if I talk about these 3 routes, the first route is known as general route. The second route is known as voluntary retention route, and the third route which I am talking about, it is known as fully accessible route. So I'll let you know what I'm trying to say. Guys. Whenever we talk about foreign portfolio investment, that means a foreign entity is trying to invest in India, and obviously this entity holds its origin outside India, and if this foreign entity is trying to invest in India, and that too in the India's debt instruments, that too in the India's debt instruments, then there are certain limits, there are certain conditions which are need to be fulfilled. Only then you are allowed to operate in India, you are allowed to invest in India, otherwise you are not allowed. So in that particular case, we have how many how many securities we have in the category of debt securities? So the first one, we have government securities. Obviously, government securities, I'm talking about short term as well as long term. Short term and long term securities, as well as I'm talking about central government as well as state government securities. We know that these securities are issued by RBI. Secondly, we have the corporate debt securities. That means the securities which are issued, corporate debt securities. So obviously the securities which are issued by the companies. Now these could be privately owned companies, it could be public sector companies, that means government owned companies. All of them, they can raise funds from the foreign investors in these debt securities. Now if I talk about कि सर ये जो इन्वेस्टमेंट होगी, इस इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए कितने रूट्स फॉलो किए जाते हैं? सर इस इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए 3 रूट्स फॉलो किए जा सकते हैं. And if I talk about the first route, that is known as general route. That is known as general route, which comes up with certain limits, but in case of general route there is no commitment in terms of time period, that you will be holding your investment how long, कि आप कितने सालों तक अपनी investment को hold करोगे. It's up to you. You can hold it for 1 day, you can hold it for 10 days. It is up to your requirement, it is up to your targets, up to your formats. Second point is the second type of route, we call it as voluntary. Second type of route, we call it as voluntary retention route, and as the name suggests, it comes up with a commitment. And if you are investing through voluntary retention route, you will be enjoying many benefits in terms of limits and all, which are applicable on general route. But if I say commitments, a commitment comes with a time period. That means if you are investing through this particular route, then you will be investing specifically for at least 3 years. Third and the most important is that is fully accessible route. If I talk about the fully accessible route, in case of fully accessible route, only and only specific government securities which are issued by central government and they are announced by central government as well as RBI. Central government and RBI, they are categorized as specific securities. In that security only you can invest. समझ आ रहा है? So we have 3 different categories. The first one is general route. Second one we have as voluntary retention route, and the third point, which is again really very important, it says what? So the third point, which is again really very important, it says or it talks about what? So it says or it talks about talks about what, sir? It talks about the fully accessible route. Now I will be discussing all the limits related to each and every category, and we will be focusing on those specific points from where examiner can ask a question in your examination. Are you ready, guys? Are you all ready? Shall we discuss these things in much detail? And I can assure you, in this examination, you will be finding a question on this particular topic, not only in phase 1, it has a great probability that it can be asked in phase 2 as well. Okay, thank you so much. Chalo. So the first point is, RBI has issued this particular master direction as per the powers granted to RBI, and these powers are granted to RBI under Foreign Exchange Management Act as well as RBI Act 1934. These directions shall be called the Master Direction, Reserve Bank of India, Non-Resident Investment and Debt Instruments, Direction 2025. These directions are applicable with immediate effect. Initially they were amended or they were issued in 2025 January, then recently it has been amended in May 2025. So obviously I will be discussing the latest one which has been amended recently in May 2025. These directions shall be applicable to all transactions. It is applicable to all transactions by eligible non-residents in debt instruments. So if you are investing in debt instruments, these directions are going to be really very important. These directions are going to be really very important. ठीक है जी? Okay, I hope it is clear till this point. Now I'll be moving to the next point, which is again really very important. What does the next point say? The next point says, so whenever we talk about these kind of master directions, there are certain definitions which we must know in order to understand the news in a better manner. So what are the definitions? I hope we all know now. I have discussed with you corporate debt securities. That means the debt instruments. Agar koi पूछे what is debt instruments? A debt instrument basically means an instrument with the help of which an organization, an entity, a corporate, a government borrow the funds. That means when you borrow the funds through an instrument, that financial instrument is known as debt instrument. And if this financial instrument is issued by a corporate, if this financial instrument is issued by a corporate, then that issued financial instrument will be termed as corporate debt security. Second one is committed portfolio size. So committed portfolio size. First one is commitment. The word commitment is related to time period. The word commitment is related to time period. Portfolio means composition of your investment. Composition means what all debt instruments in which you are investing, that entire type or forms of different debt instruments which are included, they are collectively termed as your portfolio, and this size word is related to value. This size word is related to value. So committed portfolio size for a foreign portfolio investor means the amount allotted to that FPI under the voluntary retention route. That means what amount is going to be invested by a particular foreign portfolio investor under that particular route. Then what are default bonds? So default bonds are those debt instruments. These are those debt instruments which are under default. These are those debt instruments which are under default, either fully और पार्टली. डिफॉल्ट का मतलब क्या होता है सर? ऐसे डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट जिसके बदले में या तो आपको इंटरेस्ट पे नहीं किया गया या फिर आपको प्रिंसिपल पे नहीं किया गया, यानी कि टाइम पीरियड पूरे होने पर उसका जो फंड पेमेंट है, उसका जो फेस वैल्यू पेमेंट है वो नहीं हुआ. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई हैव परचेज्ड अ फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट with a maturity of 10 years and the face value is 10,000 rupees. After completion of 10 years, when the moment I reach to the borrower, the moment I reach to the issuer of that financial instrument, I gave them ki bhaiya ye lo apna debt instrument, give my funds. They replied, sorry sir, we don't have the funds, and in that particular case, that particular instrument will be termed as default instrument. Next point, we call it as retention period. That means the time period for which you will be holding tight with your investment, you will be holding your commitment, or you will be holding the pre-decided limit to be invested in the security market. Then we have specified securities. So specified security means the central government securities which are periodically notified by RBI, and they are allowed to be invested under only one type of route, and that type of route is known as fully accessible route. That type of route is known as fully accessible route. ठीक है. अब मेरे पास काफी सारी कहानी है जिसका एक ब्रीफ मैंने आपके साथ लास्ट क्लास में भी डिस्कस किया था, बट आई विल बी डिस्कसिंग इट अगेन. दिस इज द वे I was practicing it ताकि मैं आपको दिखा सकूं. And if you want that I should come up with all the handwritten notes of all the RBI circulars, then I would request you after this session, do comment in the comment section. Just write a word handwritten, and I will start making my handwritten notes for all the circulars, and I will be distributing to you in the form of PDF, which you can use for your revision part. क्योंकि मुझे लग रहा है कि बहुत सारे students, they are still in a position, they are still in a dilemma that how they should make handwritten notes, especially for the RBI circulars. I will be doing that task for you. Don't worry. Chalo, I'll show you what I'm trying to say. Guys, let's suppose I'm talking about a government security. I'm talking about the government security, and I'm talking about the investment done by FPIs in the government securities. So government has decided, or I would say the total outstanding stock of the government securities is 10,000. So this is the total outstanding stock of the government securities, and if this is the total outstanding stock of the government security in the market, then according to this particular direction, FPI can invest up to what value? Sir, total FPI, that means total foreign, I write this word, total foreign portfolio investment can be of what value? So that can be of 6%. So 6% of 10,000 rupees is the total amount which can be invested by the foreign portfolio investors. लेकिन अगर ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की जगह ये जो सिक्योरिटीज है, these are issued by RBI on the behalf of state government, on the behalf of state government. In that particular case, the limit, total FPI limit is 2% of the total outstanding securities in case of state government securities. बोलो ये point समझ आया? Is this point clear? देखो ये वाला part. Is this point clear? Central government securities, 6% of the outstanding stock is the limit on FPI. In case of state government, this limit is 2%, and in case of corporate debt securities, which I will be discussing in some time, the limit is 15%. ठीक है, कोई डाउट नहीं है यहां तक? ठीक है, अब अगले पॉइंट पे बढ़ते हैं. अगला पॉइंट क्या कहता है? अगला पॉइंट कहता है कि सर इशू एंड सिक्योरिटी. पहला पॉइंट है, इफ आई टॉक अबाउट गवर्नमेंट, इफ गवर्नमेंट इज इशूइंग, if government has issued these securities or this total outstanding government security value is in different forms. Different forms का मतलब central government security 1 मान लो 10 years maturity, ठीक है. Central government security 2, let's suppose 20 years security. Central government security 3, let's say 1 year or up to 1 year maturity. ये क्या है? Time period for which government is borrowing. In similar way we have central government security 4, we have central government security 5. ठीक है जी, we have central government security 5. अब ये आपके पास गवर्नमेंट ने जो इशू की है सिक्योरिटीज that have been mentioned on the screen. Now the point is, if the total outstanding value of 10,000 or total outstanding value of central government security 1 is let's say 2,000 rupees. For this the value is let's say 4,000 rupees. For this the value is let's say 500. For this the value is let's say 1,500. Total कितना हुआ? So that is 2 plus 4 6, 6 plus 2 8, and this is going to be 2,000. समझ आई ये बात कि गवर्नमेंट ने जो 10,000 रुपए पब्लिक से बोरो किए, दैट बोरिंग हैज बीन डन इन डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स. पहली फॉर्म है 2,000 रुपए की टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ सिक्योरिटी जो कि इशू की गई है बाय गवर्नमेंट. आई एम कॉलिंग इट एज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी 1. फिर ये 4,000 सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी 2 एंड सो ऑन. ठीक, नाउ पहली जो लिमिट है दैट इज पर इशू लिमिट. पहली जो लिमिट है दैट इज पर इशू लिमिट, and per issue limit is 30%. per issue limit is 30% का मतलब क्या हुआ कि सर इस टोटल 2,000 में से, out of this total 2,000 rupees, 600 or the total value of 600 government security 1 can be purchased or can be, or there is an or I would say FPI is allowed to invest 30% of the total value. Here also the value is 30%, that is 1,200. Here also the value is 30% and so on. तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि सर जो ओवरऑल लिमिट है वो कितनी है? दैट इज 6%. बट इफ आई टॉक अबाउट पर सिक्योरिटी, then what will be the value? Sir, in that particular case the per security limit value is 30%. तो ये क्या है सर? टोटल एफपीआई विच कैन बी इन्वेस्टेड इन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी 1 is 600. Total FPI which can be done in central government security 2 is 1,200, which is with a limit of 30%. किस को ये पॉइंट समझ आया? किस को ये पॉइंट समझ आया? इससे ज्यादा डिटेल की एग्जांपल ना तो आपको कोई देगा ना कहीं मिलेगी. So try to decode this point very clearly, guys. If the question is asked, you can answer it very clearly. अगर समझ आ रहा है तो एक बार मुझे बता दो in the comment section if it is clear till this point. Clear हुआ? Is it clear? Okay. Moving on to the next point. The next point says, or I would say the next limit, the next limit talks about what? So the next limit says कि ये जो आपकी लिमिट है, next point says कि सर ये जो आपकी लिमिट है, how we have calculated this particular limit? So the total value of government security 1 which was issued by government is 2000. उस 2000 का 30% can be invested by FPI. So this is 30% total FPI which can be done. Total FPI which can be done. अब जब FPI की बात आएगी, in case of FPI, we have FPI 1, we have FPI 2, we have FPI 3, we have FPI 4, यानी different investors की बात कर रहा हूं. This is FPI 1, this is FPI 2, this is FPI 3, this is FPI 4. ठीक है. अब RBI क्या चाहता है? What RBI is looking forward? RBI do not want the concentration of a particular security. RBI do not want the concentration of a particular security in the hands of any one investor. RBI ये नहीं चाहता कि ये 600 रुपीस की जो टोटल सिक्योरिटी है जिसपे टोटल FPI लिमिट 600 रुपए है, ये पूरी की पूरी सिक्योरिटी कोई एक FPI खरीद ले, दैट इज नॉट अलाउड. कोई FPI एक ही FPI खरीद ले, दैट इज नॉट अलाउड. पहला पॉइंट यहां पर क्या होगा सर? पहला पॉइंट पूछा जाएगा इस FPI से, सर यू विल बी इन्वेस्टिंग इन लॉन्ग टर्म सिक्योरिटीज और शॉर्ट टर्म सिक्योरिटीज और बोथ? Long term securities or short term securities or both? Then the answer would be long term security. Then we call it as long term FPI. Then we call it as long term FPI. And if this FPI says that I will be investing in long term as well as short term securities, then I'll call this FPI as other FPI. Then I'll call this FPI as other FPI. So if a long term FPI wants to invest in this particular security जिसपे टोटल FPI की लिमिट 600 रुपए है, उसमें पर इंडिविजुअल मींस पर FPI जो लिमिट होगी दैट विल बी 15% if it is long term FPI and this limit will be 10% if it is other FPI. If it is other FPI. बोलो समझ आया? Is this point clear to everyone? Is this point clear to everyone? Do reply in the comment section. पहली लिमिट देखो, ये क्या है सर? ये है आपका टोटल FPI. ये है आपका टोटल FPI. Total FPI limit on a particular security is what? So that is 30% of this total security value. 30% of the particular security value. उस total security value पे 30% की लिमिट, this is the value which is allowed to be invested by FPI. But this entire value cannot be invested by only one FPI. There is further concentration effect. That means we don't want that this security should be concentrated in only few hands. So in that particular case, अगर तो long term FPI है उसकी लिमिट होगी 15% और अगर other FPI है तो उसकी लिमिट होगी 10%. समझ आई ये बात? उसी केस में अगर मैं कहूं ये जो FPI है दिस इज लॉन्ग टर्म एंड शॉर्ट टर्म FPI बोथ, तो ये भी कौन सी कैटेगरी में आएगा? अदर FPI की कैटेगरी में. सो दिस अदर FPI की कैटेगरी में है, सो इट ऑल्सो हैज अ टोटल पावर टू होल्ड 10% ऑफ दीज सिक्योरिटीज. एंड इफ इट इज लॉन्ग टर्म सिक्योरिटी, द FPI 4-1 जो है, ये जो फोर्थ पार्टी है, अगर ये लॉन्ग टर्म FPI है तो इसको फिर से कितने परसेंट की लिमिट मिली? 15% की लिमिट मिल जाएगी. एंड दे कैन इन्वेस्ट अप टू दी प्री डिसाइडेड लिमिट्स, दैट इज 10% और 15%. रुपीज में मैं अगर एक्सप्लेन करूं तो 60 का 15%, दैट मींस यू कैन इन्वेस्ट अप टू 90, यू कैन इन्वेस्ट अप टू 60, यू कैन अगेन इन्वेस्ट अप टू 60, यू कैन अगेन इन्वेस्ट अप टू 90. लेकिन इन सब का जो टोटल है दैट शुड बी 600. और ये जो 600 आया वो कैसे आया? सो दैट इज 30% ऑफ पर सिक्योरिटी इशू. दैट इज 30% ऑफ पर सिक्योरिटी इशू. That is 30% of per security issue. देखो अगर आप देखो यशु, I will be saying only one thing, that is if you are committed to invest only in long term, I'll call you long term FPI. But if you are committed to invest in different securities or only in short term, you will come under the category of other FPIs only. You will come under the category of other FPIs only. Is this clear, everyone? Is this clear, everyone? If it is clear, give me yes, sir. If it is clear, give me yes, sir. Quickly, do reply. 6% इसका है, 6% किसका है? पूरे 10,000 का. 6%, 10,000 का मतलब कि पूरी जो आपकी कंट्री की गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज है, द ओवरऑल एफपीआई लिमिट in the government securities, the overall FPI limit in the government securities is 6%. That is 10,000 ka 6%. This is the overall limit which you have to achieve. But if I talk about per specific security, in case of per specific security, FPI limit is 30%, which means 70% of this security value will be purchased by Indians. It will be purchased by the investment which is domestic investment rather than foreign investment. ठीक है जी. अब ये जो आया 600, इस 600 में भी out of this 600 also we have a condition. What is that condition? कि सर ये तो total FPI है and this total FPI cannot be holded by any one entity. It should be distributed among the different FPIs. मान लो ये कंपनी A है, ये कंपनी B है, ये कंपनी C है, ये D. तो C को, A को, B को भी क्या दिया गया? एक पर्टिकुलर लिमिट दी गई. If you are a long term FDI, per security limit is 15% of what? Sir, 15% of the total FPI limit for that particular security. If you are a short term, or I would say you are investing in long term as well as short term, I'll call you other FPI. In that particular case, your limit will be 10% for a given 10% for a given overall total FPI limit for a particular security. Total FPI limit for a particular security. बोलो अब समझ आया? अतुल उसको एक्सीड होने नहीं देंगे ना, उतना आपको इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए अलाउ ही नहीं किया जाएगा ना. द मूवमेंट मान लो जस्ट टेक इन दिस मैनर, अतुल टोटल आउटस्टैंडिंग स्टॉक इज 10,000, उसका 6% इज द लिमिट, दैट इज 600 रुपीज. ठीक. In case of only one security, FPI limit is 600, and if FPI has utilized entire 600 rupees of limit in only one security, then they won't be allowed to invest in the rest 4 securities because their overall limit is exhausted. Because their overall limit is exhausted. Is it clear now? Atul, sorry, Arun. Atul, हाँ. Long term and short term. Other FPI individually can invest up to 15. All FPI shall not be greater than 30%. That is true. That is true, and it is for a particular security. Arun, this is for a particular security, and overall total investment done by FPIs in the government securities, that is central government securities, cannot exceed 6%. It cannot exceed 6%. बोलो क्लियर है? क्लियर है? आओ एक पॉइंट और है, उसको भी बताता हूं. वो पॉइंट क्या है कि सर इफ आई टॉक अबाउट FPI is done by, as I said, different companies. This is FPI company 1. This is FPI entity 2. This is FPI entity 3. ठीक. Now A is committing to invest 1,000 rupees in India. B is committed to invest, let's say, 2,000 rupees in India. C is committing to invest 3,000 rupees in India. So out of their individual, see this is individual, out of the individual FPI total commitment or total investment, out of this total investment, only 30% can be invested in short term, and rest is need to be invested in long term. Rest is need to be invested in long term. This is the limit, that is FPI wise. This is the limit for individual FPIs. This is the limit of individual FPI, which means कि अगर मैं इस FPI 1 की बात करूं, so the FPI 1 portfolio, that is A portfolio, can have up to 30% of its total investment in short term, and rest can be invested in long term. अब short term में 30% से ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकते, किसी हालत में नहीं कर सकते. Is this point clear now? Is this point clear now? Just give me yes, sir. चलो अब इसको एक बार पढ़ते हैं, चीजें क्लियर हो जाएंगी. ध्यान से देखना. पहला पॉइंट है क्या? मिनिमम रेजिडुअल मैच्योरिटी रिक्वायरमेंट. सो व्हाट इज मिनिमम रेजिडुअल मैच्योरिटी रिक्वायरमेंट? फर्स्ट वर्ड इज मिनिमम, सेकेंड वर्ड इज रेजिडुअल, थर्ड वर्ड इज मैच्योरिटी. सो इफ गवर्नमेंट हैज इशूड, प्लीज पे अटेंशन, इफ गवर्नमेंट हैज इशूड a government security for 10 years. That means government is borrowing the funds for 10 years. That means government will pay back your principal after 10 years. Then in that particular case, what is the maturity of this particular security? So the total time period of borrowing is 10 years. So that is going to be the maturity. Answer, it is issued for 10 years, which means it is going to mature in 2028. And today we are sitting in which year? So we are sitting in 2025. So as of 2025, left maturity is, as of 2025, in our example, the left maturity is 3 years. The left maturity is 3 years. इतना ही तो time बचा. The left maturity is 3 years. So in this particular case, residual maturity, the third point is minimum. Government can come up with a clause that if FPIs, they want to invest in India's debt securities, if FPI want to invest in Indian debt securities, then they are allowed to invest only and only in the securities which possess or which fulfill the minimum residual maturity requirement of 5 years. Minimum residual maturity requirement of 5 years. So if there is a minimum residual maturity requirement of 5 years, then what I am trying to say, please pay attention. पहली गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी है जो इशू हुई 2018 में, या चलो मान लेते सारी गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज इशू हुई है 2018 में. इस गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी की मेच्योरिटी है 10 years, which is going to mature in 2028. It is going to mature after 20 years, that is 2038. So this is going to mature, let's say after 12 years, that means in 2030. ठीक है जी. अब as of today, what is the residual maturity? Sir, as of today, the residual maturity in this case is 3 years. क्योंकि 2025 से 28 3 साल बचे. As of this is what? So that is 13 years. As of this is what? So that is 5 years. तो आपकी गवर्नमेंट ने कंडीशन क्या लगा दी? Let's suppose, I'm taking an example. Let's suppose if government comes up with the condition of minimum residual maturity of 5 years, which means FPI is allowed to invest only in those government securities which possess minimum residual maturity of 5 years, then this security is not eligible. This is eligible. This is also eligible. Let's make it 4. वरना confusion होगा. So let's make it 4. So in that particular case, this is also eligible, but this security is not eligible, which means FPI cannot invest in the first security. They can invest in rest of the 2 securities. They can invest in rest of the 2 securities. बोलो clear हो गया? बोलो clear हो गया? Is this point clear? Okay. Moving on to the second point. Second point says short term. Guys, just give me a second. I'm not able to view that slide. चलो कोई नहीं. So I'll let you know. Second point says what? So the second point says कि जो आपकी security issue है, security wise limit, security wise FPI limit, it is 30%. Security wise FPI limit is 30%, and concentration limit is लॉन्ग टर्म एफपीआई 15% एंड शॉर्ट टर्म एफडी और अदर एफपीआई 10%. एक लास्ट पॉइंट है, वो क्या? एक लास्ट point है, that is issue limit. The last point we have is what limit? So the last point we have is issue limit. In case of security wise limit, in case of security wise limit it is 30%. In case of concentration it is 15 and 10%. The last point is basically related to the issue limit, or I would say last point is basically related to the short term investment. So in case of short term investment, per FPI portfolio will have up to 30% of investment done in short term. Up to 30% of investment done in short term. ये कुछ points है जो आपको याद रखने. I guess it is done. Now let's move on to the next point. The next point talks about under the general route. The next point we have is that is corporate route. Under the general route, the next point we have is that is corporate route. The next point we have is that is corporate route. Now what do you understand by this particular term? Please pay attention. Sir, in India we have different companies. In India we have different companies and they are borrowing funds from the public, and the issue which is done by them is basically known as what? Sir, it is basically known as corporate debt securities. Let's say the total outstanding corporate debt security is 20,000. The total outstanding corporate debt security is 20,000. In this 20,000 total FPI limit, in this 20,000 total FPI limit is what? Sir, in this 20,000 the total FPI limit is 15%, जो कि central government securities में 6% का था, which was 2% in case of state government securities. In case of corporate debt securities, in case of corporate debt securities under general route is 15%. Under general route is 15%. Let's say we have corporate debt security 1. Let's say we have corporate debt security 1. In case of corporate debt security 1, the value of the total corporate debt security 1 is 2,000. Value is 2,000. Out of this 2,000, total FPI, out of this 2,000 total FPI can be up to 50%. तो भैया ये जो पर सिक्योरिटी, ये जो आपकी पर सिक्योरिटी लिमिट है, the per security limit of FPI is what? That is 50%, which was earlier 30% in case of, which was earlier 30% in case of what? Sir, it was 30% in case of सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज. दो पॉइंट और है. दूसरा पॉइंट क्या था कि सर एफपीआई 1 कैन इन्वेस्ट हाउ मच इन दिस 50%. 50% कितना हो गया? 1000. उस 1000 में एफपीआई 1 कितना करेगा, एफपीआई 2 कितना करेगा? आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द कंसंट्रेशन वाला पार्ट. सर, इन केस ऑफ कंसंट्रेशन वाला पार्ट देयर इज नो लिमिट. चाहे आप पूरी की पूरी 1000 रुपए की जो सिक्योरिटी है, इट कैन ऑल्सो और इट कैन बी परचेज बाय एफपीआई 1. नो वन इज गोइंग टू स्टॉप यू. It can be purchased by FPI 1. No one is going to stop you. Last point is per FPI. Last point is per FPI limit और per FPI का जो portfolio था, in that particular case, short term, long term, in case of central government security or state government security, this limit was up to 30%. This limit was up to 30%. लेकिन अब इस 30% limit को हटा दिया. There is no limit. इसका मतलब per FPI can have their entire portfolio in the form of short term and no one is going to stop you. You can have your entire portfolio in the form of short term and no one is going to stop you. Points को पढ़ता हूं, clear हो जाएगा. पहला point, अगर हम पहले point की बात करें, if I talk about the first point, minimum residual maturity requirement, and FPI may invest only in corporate debt securities with residual maturity above 1 year. There was no limit in case of central or state government securities, but yes, in case of corporate debt, the minimum residual maturity requirement is above 1 year. मतलब आपकी जो security है, it is going to mature in more than 1 year, then only it is eligible. If I talk about the short term, per portfolio limit, so short term per portfolio limit is no limit. Long term, short term कितना भी होगा कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, जो कि पहले 30% था. पर इशू पे जो लिमिट पहले 30% था, दिस हैज इंक्रीज टू 50%, और जो आपका कॉन्सेंट्रेशन लिमिट था 15% एंड 10% लॉन्ग टर्म एफपीआई एंड अदर एफपीआई, यहां पे भी क्या हो गया, नो लिमिट हो गया। बोलो क्लियर है, इजी है, समझ आ गया? अगर क्लियर है, इजी है, समझ आ गया तो एक बार यस सर टाइप कर दो सो दैट आई कैन मूव अहेड। देख लो एक बार ध्यान से, पढ़ लो इस चीज को, अगर क्लियर है तो एक बार यस सर टाइप कर दो सो दैट आई कैन मूव अहेड क्विकली। रितिका, कॉन्सेंट्रेशन लिमिट का मतलब क्या होता है, सुन लो जरा ध्यान से, लास्ट बार रिपीट कर रहा हूं, सुनना इस पॉइंट को बहुत ध्यान से। कॉन्सेंट्रेशन लिमिट का मतलब यह है कि मान लो एक कोई गवर्नमेंट की सिक्योरिटी है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी 1, इसे गवर्नमेंट ने इशू किया, इसकी जो टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ इशू है फेस वैल्यू के हिसाब से वो कितनी है, 2000। इस 2000 में 30% इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा कौन, एफपीआई, और 70% इन्वेस्टमेंट कौन करेगा, डोमेस्टिक इन्वेस्टमेंट। ठीक है, यहां तक तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। एफपीआई टोटल कितना हो सकता है इस सिक्योरिटी में, 30%, और बाकी कौन करेगा, डोमेस्टिक इन्वेस्टर्स करेंगे। अब ये जो 30% है, अब ये जो 30% है, 30% ऑफ टोटल इज इक्वल्स टू एफपीआई लिमिट, कि इससे ज्यादा एफपीआई आ ही नहीं सकती, और ये वैल्यू कितनी आ गई, 600 रुपए। ये वैल्यू कितनी आ गई, 600 रुपए। अब इसमें जो इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, वी हैव डिफरेंट इन्वेस्टर्स, वी हैव डिफरेंट इन्वेस्टर्स, एफपीआई कंपनी ए, एफपीआई एंटिटी बी, एफपीआई एंटिटी 3। ये जो एफपीआई एंटिटी 1 है, ये कमिट करता है कि आई विल बी इन्वेस्टिंग ओनली इन लॉन्ग टर्म। इफ यू आर गोइंग टू इन्वेस्ट ओनली इन लॉन्ग टर्म सिक्योरिटीज, then in that particular case per FPI लिमिट, पर इन्वेस्टर लिमिट, इस लिमिट के हिसाब से, ये जो लिमिट हमने कैलकुलेट की, इस लिमिट के हिसाब से कितनी होगी, 15%। दिस विल बी 10% अगर वी हैव अदर एफपीआई। अदर एफपीआई का मतलब विच इज नॉट कमिटेड ओनली टू द लॉन्ग टर्म एफपीआई, विच इज नॉट कमिटेड ओनली टू द लॉन्ग टर्म सिक्योरिटी इन्वेस्टमेंट। इज दिस पॉइंट क्लियर नाउ? इज दिस पॉइंट क्लियर नाउ? If it is clear, just give me yes sir so that we can move ahead. Clear? Chalo. Moving on to the next point. Now the next point says investment in the corporate debt security will include certain norms. The first one, an FPI cannot invest in. So FPI is not allowed to invest in those securities which have a optionality clause. Optionality clause का मतलब it has a clause of option to sell, that means call or put option. You are not allowed to invest in call or put option enabled securities. पहला point. दूसरा point, debt mutual fund schemes with maturity duration of portfolio less than 1 year. So in case of debt mutual fund schemes, you are not allowed to invest if the maturity is less than 1 year. क्योंकि वो मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया था क्या, कि जो आपका residual maturity requirement है वो कितना होना चाहिए, 1 साल से ज्यादा। Partly paid debt instruments you are not allowed, and amortized corporate debt you are not allowed. Partly paid का मतलब 10,000 की सिक्योरिटी है, उसमें यह कहा गया 5,000 आज दे दो, 5,000 अगले साल दे देना। ऐसी सिक्योरिटी में एफपीआई इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकता। एक डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट बेचा गया जिसमें आपको हर महीने 1,000 रुपए लोन पे देने, दैट मींस यू विल बी गिविंग टोटल लोन ऑफ 12,000, उस केस में भी एफपीआई इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकता। सो इन दीज टाइप ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज एफपीआई इज नॉट अलाउड टू इन्वेस्ट। Next point we have is there are certain exemptions. That means there will be no limit in terms of the issue size. There will be no limit in terms of issue size, which means if we have security receipts which are issued by asset रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी, रिमेंबर बैंक का एनपीए खरीदा, बैंक के एनपीए को बैंक के एनपीए को सिक्योरिटाइज्ड किया और सिक्योरिटाइज करके उसके बदले में द सिक्योरिटीज विच आर इशूड दैट इज नोन एज सिक्योरिटी रिसीट्स. इन केस ऑफ सिक्योरिटी रिसीट्स, एज वी नो दैट the per security or the per corporate debt security पर FPI लिमिट कितनी है सर? पर FPI लिमिट है कितनी? 50%. अगर हम बात करें FPI लिमिट की तो वो कितनी है? दैट इज 50%. लेकिन यहां पर वो लिमिट क्या हो जाएगी? जीरो. लेकिन यहां पर लिमिट क्या हो जाएगी? जीरो. अगर ये सिक्योरिटी रिसीट्स 1000 रुपए की इशू हुई, 100% investment can come from FPI. There is no clause, there is no limitation. Why so? So reason is very obvious. Why the reason is very obvious? So the reason says in this particular case, we want कि ये जो NPA के बदले में securitization हुआ है, we want immense return from it so that our NPA recoveries can be done. So in order to, I would say, ease out the process of investment, this announcement has been done. If it is a security receipt issued by ARC, no limit. Debt instruments issued by entity which is under the corporate insolvency resolution, there is no issue size limit. And in case of default bond also कोई limit नहीं है. अगर एक default bond की value 10,000 रुपए है जिसे issue किया गया, entire default bond can be purchased by FPI, unlike other types of securities where per security FPI limit is 50%. Per security type FPI limit is 50%. Is this point clear now? Is this point clear? The next point is exemptions में the minimum residual maturity requirement shall not be applying. तो यहां पर कौन कौन से ऐसे केसेस हैं जहां पर minimum residual मेच्योरिटी रिक्वायरमेंट अप्लाई नहीं होगी? यहां पर क्या नहीं अप्लाई होगा? इन्वेस्टमेंट वाइज लिमिट या इशू वाइज लिमिट. यहां पर क्या नहीं अप्लाई होगा? रेजिडुअल मेच्योरिटी रिक्वायरमेंट. दैट मींस इफ द रेजिडुअल मेच्योरिटी इज लेस देन 1 year, then also FPI is allowed to invest in case of any certificate issued by special purpose vehicle which is set up by securitization of asset. Second point is any certificate issued and listed in terms of security, issued and listed in terms of SEBI, that is issue and listing of securitized debt instruments and security receipts, they are allowed. So in दोनों केसेस में आपके ऊपर कोई मेच्योरिटी लिमिट नहीं है. एंड इस केस में, इन दोनों केसेस में, सॉरी तीनों केसेस में आपके पास कोई इशू लिमिट नहीं है. यू डोंट हैव एनी इशू लिमिट. क्लियर हो गया? आई गेस द पॉइंट इज क्लियर. आई गेस द पॉइंट इज क्लियर. इफ इट इज क्लियर जस्ट गिव मी यस सर. If it is clear, just give me yes, sir. Chal. Now let's move on. To the second route. The second route we call it as voluntary retention route. The second route we call it as voluntary retention route. So voluntary retention route, as the name suggests, it is a type of route where foreign portfolio investors, they are allowed to invest, but there are certain commitments that is known as commitment in terms of time period. And here the commitment is 3 years. If you want to invest through voluntary retention route, you can only and only invest if you are ready to invest for 3 years. If you are ready to invest for 3 years. This is the first condition. Second condition is under the voluntary retention route, for debt securities, you can invest in debt securities, you can invest in mutual funds, you can invest in ETFs, but these mutual funds as well as these ETFs should be invested only and only in debt security. अगर एक ऐसा म्यूचुअल फंड है जो कि हाइब्रिड है, which has made the investment in debt as well as in equity, then you are not allowed to invest, as it is very clearly mentioned. Domestic mutual fund or ETF which invest less than or equal to 50% in equity and partly paid debt instruments, on that cases में you will not be allowed to invest in those mutual funds. But if ETF and mutual fund is entirely invested in direct debt securities, then you are allowed. But if they are invested in equity, then you are not allowed. Even in the case of hybrid Mutual fund schemes, you are not allowed to invest. Who are not allowed to invest? FPIs are not allowed to invest. Under which route? Sir, under voluntary retention route. Under voluntary retention route. Second point says, repos and reverse repo subject to amount borrowed or lent under the repo not exceeding 10% of the investment by an FPI under VRR. What does it basically mean? It means repo and reverse repo. I hope आप सबको पता है what is repo, what is reverse repo. If you don't know, I'll give you the answer. If someone asks me what is repo agreement, I would say there is a company called A, other company is known as B. So company A has pledged, I'm just taking an example in a very layman terms, in a very hypothetical scenarios. This security is pledged by A into the hands of B, and B has given a loan of 1,000 rupees. But at the time of completing this loan, at the time of writing the contract, when this loan was exercised, a contract was written, and in that contract it was very clearly mentioned that it is a repo agreement. Repo agreement basically means repurchasing agreement. Repurchasing agreement basically means when A will pay back the principal as well as interest. When A will pay back your entire principal, your entire interest, then B is liable. Then B is liable to return the same security. B is liable to return the same security, which means when borrower pay back the principal and interest, when borrower pay back the principal and interest, it repurchases the security which was given as a collateral at the time of borrowing, and that is the reason we call it as repurchasing agreement. That is the reason we call it as repurchasing agreement. So in case of repo and reverse repo agreements, what is the limit of per FPI? What is the limit of per FPI? So that is 10%. It means that the total repos security is 10,000 crores. Then out of this 10,000 crore, any one FPI can invest only up to 10%. Any one FPI, an individual, an FPI can invest up to 10%. So that is, you need to remember what is the investment limit. So the investment limit is 2.5 lakh crore rupee. What is the investment limit? So it is 250 lakh crore rupees under voluntary retention route, and it can be more than that. It can be more than that depending upon the RBI notifications, depending upon the RBI announcements. Is this point clear, guys? Is this point clear? No doubt till this point? Is this point clear? I guess there's no doubt. I guess there is no doubt. Okay, moving on to the next point. The next point says allocation of investment limit. If I talk about the allocation of investment limit, please pay attention. Allocation of investment amount to FPIs under this route shall be made on tap and allotted on first come first serve basis or through an auction mechanism, which means agar FPI wants to invest, if FPI wants to invest in voluntary retention or through voluntary retention route, in that particular case, FPI will be getting the access to the government securities, getting access to the debt securities, either on the clause first come first serve, and if that clause is not applicable, then it will depend on the demand and supply, and if the demand is more, then auction will be done. Auction का मतलब bidding, कि भैया जो ज़्यादा पैसा देगा उसी को हम क्या करेंगे, इस इंस्ट्रूमेंट को इशू करेंगे, So it can be issued through auction or it can be issued through first come first serve. The maximum investment limit which can be allotted to an FPI shall be 50% of the amount offered for each allotment by tap or through auction in case of demand for more than 100% of the amount offered. In case of demand for more than 100% of the amount offered. What I'm trying to say, मान लो कि जो total debt security है, which is available under voluntary retention route, that is 1,000 rupees. So in that particular case, that is 1,000 rupees. In that particular case, FPI 1 is demanding for 1000, or let's say FPI 1 is demanding for 1100 and FPI 2 is let's say demanding for 200, demanding for 200. So ध्यान से देखो, अगर डिमांड 100% से ज्यादा है, अगर डिमांड 100% से ज्यादा है, if the demand is more than 100%, then in that particular case 50% will be allotted, 550 will be allotted. If the demand is more than 100%, 550 will be allotted. If demand is less than 100%, then 100% will be allotted or the value will be allotted. Allotted का मतलब समझ आया कि भैया मैं गया, मैंने पूछा कितनी FPI अवेलेबल है अंडर द वॉलंटरी रिटेंशन रूट. दे से 1000 rupees. I said I'm ready to purchase for more than 1000. I'm ready to purchase for more than 1000. इसको और भी एक एग्जाम्पल की तरह देख सकते हैं, इसको थोड़ा सा और रिफाइन करते हैं. दैट वुड बी मच बेटर, दैट वुड बी मच बेटर. Please pay attention, guys. This is going to be much better. Let's suppose total debt security is of 1000 rupees. It is of 1000 rupees. It is of 1000 rupees. In that particular case, which is available under voluntary retention route. Now we have demands. So demand is done by FPI 1. Demand is done by FPI 2, so demand is done by FPI 3. Demand is 500, demand is 600, demand is let's say 700. So if I talk about the demand, total demand कितनी होगी? 500 plus 600, 1100, 1100 plus 700, total demand कितनी हो गई? 1800. If the total demand is greater than 100%, if the total demand is greater than 100%, then what will happen? So in this particular case, in this particular scenario, if the total demand is greater than 100%, तो उस केस में क्या करेंगे? सर डिमांड सप्लाई से ज्यादा है, तो कहते हैं सबको 50-50% दे दो, सबको 50-50% दे दो. That is the point which has been mentioned. Maximum investment limit which can be allotted to an FPI shall be 50% of the amount offered for each allotment in case of demand for more than 100% of the total amount offered. अगर आपकी डिमांड टोटल अमाउंट ऑफर्ड से 100% या उससे ज्यादा है, तो उस केस में you will be receiving 50%. What is the retention period? So retention period is 3 years. That means you need to retain your investment for 3 years. You need to retain your investment for 3 years. अब मान लो अंडर द वॉलंटरी रिटेंशन रूट there is an FPI and this FPI has committed that I will be investing 1000 rupees. FPI has committed that I will be investing 1000 rupees under voluntary retention route. Everyone was okay with it, everyone was fine with it, but FPI said कि भैया आज मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है, I will be investing slowly. Government said okay. So today, day one, they have invested 100 rupees. Then what is the date today? Guys, what is the date today? The date is 17th of May 2025. 17th of May 2025, they have invested, let's say 500 rupees, 50%. Then after 3 months, 6 months or 5 months, on 17th of June, July, August, September, October. Let's say on 17th of October, it has invested 200 rupees more. It has invested 200 rupees more. Then on 17th of November, it has invested 100 rupees. The point is, sir, is this possible? The first point says, sir, this is not possible. Why this is not possible? If you have committed yourself for 1000 rupees of FPI under VRR, then at least 75% of investment should be done in 3 months. Then at least 75% of investment is need to be done in 3 months. So I say in that particular case, let's suppose on 17th of May 2025, company has invested 500, then company should invest at least 250 on or before June, July, August, on or before 17th of August 2025, on or before 17th August 2025, and the moment company has made this investment, so what is the total investment made by that FPI? So that is equal to 75%. The moment your investment is equals to or greater than, or it is just equal to the 75% of your commitment, if it is greater than 75% or equal to 75% of your commitment, from that day we will calculate the timeline of 3 years. That means you will be retaining this investment till 17th of August 2028, not from 17th of May 2025. नहीं समझ आया? कोई बात नहीं, पढ़ना जरा. Provided that foreign FPI has availed additional time to invest in terms of the retention period for the investment, would be reset to commence from the date that FPI invests 75%. तो इसका मतलब आपका जो 3 साल का टाइम पीरियड है वो कब से स्टार्ट होगा? So the timeline of 3 years will start when you have made at least 75% of investment. In this case, you have made it on 17th of August 2025. You cannot make this investment after 17th of August because the timeline to make this investment is 3 months. An FPI shall invest at least 75% within 3 months from the date of allotment and remain invested within date of investment and remain invested for value of minimum 75% and remain invested for a value of minimum 75%. What I am trying to say, ये आपका टाइम है, this is the time and this is 17th of May 2025. This is the day when the allotment was done, and at the time of allotment 500 rupees of allotment was done. Total allotment which has been done under the retention is 1000. So आज से हम 3 साल नहीं गिनेंगे. We will count the 3 years from the day when you have raised your investment to 750. So your investment was raised to 750 on, let's say, 17th of June. अगले महीने कर दिया. अगर आप अगले महीने कर देंगे इट्स ओके, बट आप 17 अगस्त के बाद नहीं कर पाएंगे, दैट इज नॉट अलाउड. द मोमेंट यू हैव मेड इट 75%, देन फ्रॉम दिस डेट टिल 17th of June 2028 your investment should be minimum 75%. You cannot go below this. Your investment should be minimum 75%. You cannot go below this. This is again a condition which is set by RBI under this particular circular. कि भैया 75% से कम कभी भी नहीं हो सकता. ये 75% से कम कभी भी नहीं हो सकता. It can float here. यहाँ ऊपर नीचे कहीं भी जाए, लेकिन इससे नीचे नहीं आ सकता. That is not allowed. That is a point which you need to remember. ठीक है. Next point says, sir, if you want to sell your FPIs, if you want to sell your securities under the voluntary retention route, then in that particular case you can sell up to 25% because we want your investment should be at least 75% for entire 3 years. Your investment should be at least 75% for entire 3 years. अब income जो आप कमाएंगे means जो आपको interest मिलेगा on these securities, what you'll do with it, it's your choice. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Investment made through the VRR shall not be subjected to any minimum residual maturity requirement. That means the investment which is done through VRR, they are not subjected to any minimum, residual maturity requirement or issue wise limit in order to ease out the investment. अब क्वेश्चन आया कि सर मैंने खरीदा वॉलंटरी रिटेंशन रूट, अब मुझे वापस जाना, आई वांट टू गो बैक, व्हाट विल बी द सिनेरियो? इन दैट पर्टिकुलर सिनेरियो, ऑन द कंप्लीशन ऑफ टाइम पीरियड, आई विल सेल द सिक्योरिटीज, take my funds and go out. No one is going to stop me. Second is if I have a voluntary retention route and today time period is completed, 3 years is completed, then after 3 years if I don't want to encash it, I can transfer it to government, I can transfer it to the general route, that is also allowed. Continue to hold its investment until maturity or sale, whichever is earlier. So you have to hold it until it is mature or until it is mature or you sell it. Now the question is, can I sell premature voluntary retention route? My answer is yes. Which means आज मैंने voluntary retention route के through investment किया. 17th May 2025, I have made 100% of investment and I am committed to hold this investment until or up till 17th of May 2028. एक साल के बाद, after 1 year, I am in need of funds. Now what should I do? In that particular scenario, I would find some of the FPIs who are ready to invest and fulfill this criteria, then I will be transferring my investment to the other FPI. समझ आई बात कि ये जो FPI है, who has invested, he can transfer to the second party which is allowed. Transfer to the second party which is allowed, and they will be holding this. They will be holding this investment till 2028. They will be holding this investment till 2028. So you can sell the security, that is allowed. There is no issue. If you want to exit before, I have given you the answer. So FPI desiring to exist its investment fully or partly under the VRR prior to the end of the retention period may do by selling its investment to another FPIs. FPI buying such investment should fulfill the conditions under VRR. Who are the eligible investors under FAR? What is FAR? As we already discussed, fully accessible route. What is fully accessible route? So fully accessible route means FPI can invest without limit, no limit. FPI can invest without limit. किसी तरह की कोई लिमिट नहीं है, ना सिक्योरिटी वाइज लिमिट, ना इशू वाइज लिमिट, ना ही कोई पोर्टफोलियो वाइज लिमिट. There is no limit, but there is only one condition, that you can invest only and only in specific securities. There is only one condition, that you can invest only and only in one specific security which has been announced by RBI कि this is a specific security which is eligible under FAR. You are allowed to invest in that only. So who all are eligible? Sir, FPIs are eligible. Even the NRIs, non-resident Indians, they are eligible. Even the overseas citizens of India, they are eligible. Any other person resident outside India, as may be notified by RBI, they are eligible. So here we have more number, more count, more eligible candidates who can invest in this particular category. Eligible instruments are all securities under the FAR on the date of issuance. So when you issue, at that time only you say that the security is allowed. Or new issuance of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years tenure by central government, or any other security that the Reserve Bank of India notifies that is eligible under FAR. So all the new issuance of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, they are eligible. और एनी अदर सिक्योरिटी जो कि 5, 7 या 10 साल की नहीं है, 20, 25 साल की है, लेकिन if RBI notifies it, that is also eligible under the same. That is also eligible under the same. FPI investment in specified securities under the route shall not be subject to any investment limit or macroprudential controls as applicable for the other routes such as general route. As it is applicable for the other routes, that is general route. Now I come to the fourth route, and the fourth route is sovereign green bond scheme. What is sovereign green bond scheme? So sovereign green bond scheme means when FPI invest in the sovereign green bonds. What are these sovereign green bonds? So sovereign green bonds are the debt instruments which are issued by RBI on the behalf of the government, and we know this very well, that these instruments, they will be used to raise the funds, and the funds which are raised through these instruments will be used for green projects. It will be used for green projects. Green projects means all those projects which are going to improve the environmental scenarios, all those projects which are going to mitigate the environmental climate change risk, all those projects, they are eligible under this particular category, remember it. So in case of sovereign green bonds issued by government of India may be made by eligible investors in the international. So in this case, you can invest only and only through the International Financial Service Center. You cannot invest directly as you were investing in the earlier cases. Here the investment can be done. Here the investment can be done only and only through IFSCA. This you need to remember. International Financial Service Centers are only allowed to issue the sovereign green bonds to the foreign investors. Such investments shall be in terms of scheme for trading and settlement of sovereign green bonds in the International Financial Service Center in India, which will be notified by RBI. So RBI will give you a notice. On that particular notification, the foreign investors, they can invest in the sovereign green bonds through IFSC, that is International Financial Service Center. डन हो गया जी. तो पहला मैंने आपको बताया स्टॉक एक्सचेंज से you can invest, or you can even invest through the primary market, even through the secondary market. On the second case, we have the investment which is going to be done by IFSC, that is International Financial Service Center. Now the third is FPIs, they are also allowed to make over the counter trade. Over the counter trade का मतलब क्या हुआ? What does this term over the counter trade means? For example, Saurav, Shruti, Anuj, Yashu, Arun, they all have governments, they all have the debt instruments with them, the debt securities with them. I approached individually to Arun. I am what? I am a foreign entity. I am an FPI. I approached to Arun. I approached to Yashu. I approached to Anuj. I approached to Shruti. I approached to Saurabh. I made the negotiation with them and I have purchased the debt securities directly from the public. Directly from the public, that is allowed. First thing, over the counter markets or over the counter trade is allowed by FPIs in the debt securities, and if that is a situation, in that particular scenario, you have to inform about the trade. You have to inform about the trade to the clear cop dealing system. So what does it basically means? So this basically means that shall be reported to, it shall be reported to whom? Sir, it shall be reported to NDS-OM platform. So if Madhav has purchased a debt instrument from Arun, okay, and Madhav is FPI, this is over the counter trade and funds will be given to Arun. In that particular case, when market closes, market closes at 3:30, so market will close at 3:30, 3:30 के 3 घंटे के अंदर 3:30 के 3 घंटे के अंदर यानी before 6:30 p.m. you have to inform about this trade. You have to inform about this trade to NDS-OM. You have to inform about this trade to NDS-OM. अब किसी के दिमाग में होगा कि सर what is this NDS-OM? This is Negotiated Dealing System Order Matching. It is a platform जो कि owned है by RBI for trading government securities, और this platform is an anonymous order matching system for override buys and sells of government securities. So if you want to buy the government securities, you want to sell the government securities, you reach to this particular platform, you go and quote your sale. If you want to purchase, you go and quote your buy, and on the basis of random, I would say allotments, or I would say the random check, the random pick, on one side seller is picked, on one side buyer is picked, and then they are matched so that the trading can be completed. That is known as NDS-OM platform. But if the trade is done over the counter, then you have to inform NDS-OM, before 6:30 p.m. on the same day when the trade was done. So all OTC trades in the government securities undertaken by FPI shall be reported to NDS-OM platform on the trade date within 3 hours after the close of trading hours for the government security market, and in accordance with the operational guidance, and you have to follow the operational guidance which is issued by Clear Cop Dealing System, and Clear Cop Dealing System is the subsidiary of CCIL. It is the subsidiary of CCIL. Now सेटलमेंट कि सर आज आपने ट्रेड किया, माधव ने कहा, किसको कहा था? अरुण को कहा था, ठीक है। माधव ने कहा अरुण को कि आई एम रेडी टू परचेज योर सिक्योरिटी, and Madhav committed that I will be paying you the funds. But actually when you receive the security, when Arun will receive the funds, then we say settlement is done. So what is settlement? So settlement basically means when actually the security is received to the buyer, when actually the funds are received to the seller, once the funds reach, once the security reach, then only we call it as settlement. So in this particular case, over the counter trade secondary market transactions in government securities undertaken by FPI may be settled in T+1 or T+2 basis. T+1 or T+2 basis. T+1 का मतलब आज मंडे को आपने ट्रांजेक्शन की, it will be settled on Tuesday or maybe on Wednesday. अगर आप Wednesday को कर रहे हैं, it will be settled on Thursday or maybe on Friday. That is a point. Got it, guys? Clear हो गया? Last point is violation of direction. If I talk about the violation of direction, any transaction in breach of applicable investment limit या macro prudential control shall not be accepted. अगर आपने कोई भी transaction, कोई भी ऐसी transaction की which is not applicable, you are not allowed to make that investment. For example, FPI has made a transaction from Arun and purchased a security, but if that security is not allowed and you are violating the directions, then in that particular case this particular transaction will be reversed. In that particular case, particular transaction will be reversed. Any violation by FPI shall be subjected to regulatory action, which will be not taken by RBI, it will be taken by SEBI. FPIs, they are permitted with approval of custodian to रेगुलराइज माइनर वायलेशन. अब हो सकता है कि उनसे कोई छोटी सी गलती हो गई हो सकता है उनसे कोई छोटी सी गलती हो गई हो और वो छोटी सी गलती is known as minor violation. In that particular case, FPI will reach to the custodian and ask the custodian, sir, I have done this particular mistake and it comes under the category of minor violation. Please regulate it. Please regularize it. Regularize का मतलब इसे reverse कर दो, sorry not reverse, इसे okay कर दो. Okay का मतलब क्या हुआ? ये मुझसे गलती हुई है, माफ कर दो, लिख दो वहां पे कि ये गलती हुई थी, हमने माफ कर दिया because it's a minor violation. So in that particular case, custodian shall report SEBI all non-minor violations as well as minor violations that have not been regularized. तो custodian सिर्फ और सिर्फ inform करेगा SEBI को about the transactions, about the non-minor violations, जो कि non-minor violations नहीं है, जो कि major violations है, that should be reported by custodian to SEBI, as well as custodian will report all those minor violations which are not regularized to SEBI. So this information will be given to SEBI by the custodian itself. Is it clear everyone? आज और कल दोनों दिन, मतलब आज की क्लास और पिछली क्लास, दोनों क्लासेस को देखकर मुझे ये लग रहा है कि आप लोगों का जो इंटरेस्ट है इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक में काफी कम है. The reason behind is you are feeling that yes, this is one of the tough guidelines given by RBI. I would say certainly yes. But when you revise it at least twice, you will be able to retain it. You will be able to solve the questions in the examination. So I request you guys, do go through with the PDF, read the PDF at least twice, and make a chart for this particular PDF, or I will be providing you with the I would say handwritten notes which will help you. I'll provide you with the handwritten notes which will help you. But today the live count was very low. आज live count 40 से ऊपर गया ही नहीं, but in general we go even above 60. I don't know what was the reason. Maybe आज Saturday है, maybe that could be a reason. Maybe there is some other examination which is going to happen today. बहुत सारे competitive exams होते हैं time to time. Maybe that is a reason, or I don't know. Maybe the reason is the current direction which is going on. Many of you must have thought कि ठीक है, I'm not going to remember it, I'm not going to revise it, I'm not going to answer any question if it is asked in the examination. If you have decided it, I'm okay with it. अगर आपने ये decide किया, then also it's fine, because yes, if you want to clear this exam, you need to be bit choosy. If you feel that this is quite tough, this is something which I'm not able to recognize, then in that particular case, you can even leave it. No one is going to stop you. It's okay. ठीक है? Don't forget to hit the like button, guys, before leaving. And after I stop the session, after I complete the session, do give me the feedback in the comment section, and do write in the comment section. If you want handwritten notes. I'm planning to give you the handwritten notes, but it will take much of my efforts, as well as मुझे उसके लिए काफ़ी time भी चाहिए. तो obviously if the comments will go above 50, then only I will be taking a decision. So do write in the comment section if you want me to give you the handwritten notes for RBI circulars before your examination, जिसमें एक circular आपको एक A4 size की sheet पर मिल जाएगा. You will be having one circular on in this manner. I will be giving it in the landscape mode, and I'll try to cover one circular on one A4 size sheet. That means we will be having around 10 to 20 important or very important circulars. So let's say I'm expecting the count is going to be around 20 most important circulars, and for those 20 most important circulars, I will be giving you 20 sheets. I will be giving you 20 A4 size sheets, but only if you will comment in the comment section that you want handwritten notes. Got it, guys? Thank you so much for joining. Good luck. God bless you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.